Leonid Brezhnev was the head of state of the Soviet Union from 1964 till he croaked in 1982. Unlike many communists who came from wealthy backgrounds, looking at you, mansion Marxist Hasan Piker, Brezhnev came from a working class family. No pet horses and no silver sapphire encrusted dog shock collars.
Kaya, please just fucking go, just stop.
Brezhnev would join the Communist Party at a young age and would eventually become an official member. He would be recruited into the Red Army during World War II to fight off the Germans. During his time, he rose higher and higher in the ranks all the way up to Major General. For his hard work and sacrifice, he became a member of the Politburo, which was the most powerful executive body in the Soviet Union, and for that matter, the wider communist world. The top of the hierarchy for those who believe in abolishing hierarchy. Brezhnev would organize an ouster of the then leader of the Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev, and after a power struggle with co-conspirators, would become the de facto leader of the Soviet Union. Khrushchev would retire, given 400 rubles a month, and spend the rest of his life gardening. He really was particularly proud of the corn he grew. Anyway, unlike previous leaders of the Soviet Union like Stalin, Brezhnev preferred to keep his own power intact, not through mass terror and violence, but rather through bribes. He loved to flatter those loyal to him with boxes of cash, vintage wine, luxury cars, and jewelry. Rubies are red, just like communism, so that way you know it's not hypocritical. His reign was marked with unrestrained nepotism, in which corrupt, skill-inefficient friends and family were put into positions of prestige. For example, his daughter was infamous not only for collecting jewelry, but running a literal diamond smuggling ring. Brezhnev himself had a vast collection of luxury cars, vacation homes, and tailor-made suits. Brezhnev was also one of the most decorated figures in contemporary history, having gotten over 100 medals and titles. Granted, these were medals and titles that he, well, gave to himself. Just to let everyone watching this video know, I am the greatest YouTuber of all time. Fuck Mr. Beast, fuck PewDiePie, and all these other obscure peasant YouTubers. This 6K subscriber YouTube channel is the greatest of all time, and I will reward myself with a JPEG of a red diamond play button and sell it as an NFT for 100 million Soviet rubles. Whatever that's worth. Brezhnev also awarded himself with the title of quote-unquote Hero of the Soviet Union, while I declare myself the current leader of the Soviet Union. I mean, I know the country doesn't exist anymore, but I'm gonna pretend that that gives me control over the largest swath of land and the largest... Anyway. I am the leader of the Soviet Union in the same way that Hasan Piker is the voice of the working class. By this point in the history of the Soviet Union, it became clear that the quote-unquote communists didn't really believe in communism anymore, nor did a large and growing portion of the population. And who could blame them when the grocery stores looked like this? I guess this wasn't the real communism according to Hasan, since it didn't include truffle oil infused caviar with gold leaves. One of the most famous anecdotes during the Soviet Union was a conversation between Brezhnev and his mother. When Brezhnev came into power, he invited his working class mom into his palatial Kremlin office. Then he took her on a limo ride, and then on a helicopter ride. From helicopter, she got to see the beautiful vistas of the Russian countryside just outside of Moscow, all the way to his vacation home near his personal hunting grounds. He then flew her on a private jet to his villa along the Black Sea and showed her his personal car collection. His mother was silent throughout most of the trip, but when her son asked her what she thought of his status and prestige, she simply replied, "It's all very nice, but what will you do if the communists come back?" Okay, framing over. For those of you who couldn't tell, this is a follow-up to my video that was called Hasan Piker, Gucci Guerrilla Fighter, where I argued that Hasan Piker represents the capitalist commodification of revolutionary communist anti-capitalist aesthetics, while being too dumb to realize otherwise. In other words, Hasan Piker is not the communist revolutionary Che Guevara, but the Che Guevara t-shirt. And for that matter, a Coco Chanel Che Guevara t-shirt, sold for thousands of dollars. From now on, let's just call Hasan Piker Chanel Guevara. Oh, and by the way, side note, I just noticed that in my last video, I kept calling Che Guevara Che Guevara. Sorry about that. I guess that means that Hasan Piker isn't the only moron here. Speaking of using anti-consumerist rhetoric to sell stupid, overpriced consumerist shit, I started the previous video off with a clip by an ad from the fashion magazine Shun, starring our favorite comrade Hasan Piker.
The Kardashians are lying to you. Culture used to be the backbone of the resistance. All it seeks to do is sedate the masses. Culture now seeks to appeal to our primal urges, our base need. We're now in the age of mediocrity. You can bring about the positive change you want to see in this world, because the revolution will not be televised. Revolution will not be televised. Only you can bring about the revolution by taking it to the streets. Keep resisting.
What I didn't cover during my previous video was the glorious description of that ad. So let's read it now. We're consumed by a sea of fake news and shareable sound bites.
I want to say thank you to Miley Cyrus for showing off her camel toe at the VMAs the other night.
It can be hard to decipher what's really taking place around us. However, Hasan Piker emerges as an antidote to clickbait culture, with a real platform to educate and inform.
Doesn't know where Yemen is. Okay, I'm gonna click close. I'm closing it. I'm closing it. I think nope.
A social media sensation with a bulletproof sorry, let me try that again. With a fuck. Okay, let me try that again. A third time. Come on, 3 times the charm. With a bulletproof political ideology. I can't do this. Sorry, let me try again. A 4th time here. A social media sensation with a bulletproof political ideology.
What's your opinion? Taiwan independent?
My opinion on Taiwan is that Taiwan is the Chinese concept of Taiwan.
He interrogates the meaning of culture in a post-internet age. In a post-internet age, post means afterwards. How are we in a post-internet age when we are watching something posted onto the fucking internet? Anyway, with the Renaissance leading to the Reformation, I doubt Hasan knows what either of these two terms mean, arts and culture have historically been the backbone of the resistance, responsible for uplifting society. But in the age of Donald Trump and the Kardashians, culture only seeks to keep the masses sedated. To be fair, this last part is true. Kim Kardashian's ass does indeed sedate the masses.
The Kardashians are lying to you.
The revolution will not be televised, so take to the streets. Well, our comrade Hasan has taken to the streets like a true revolutionary. And when he fights for the revolution in the streets, it looks like this.
Yo, you abuse dogs, you weirdo. You abuse dogs, you weirdo. Switch, don't touch me. I didn't touch shit. Get shit, yo, you smell like shit though. Back up. You do. Switch. Fuck Twitch and fuck you. Twitch and fuck you. You fucking view botter? Yo, you abuse your dog? That's crazy, bro.
In my previous video, I mentioned a comic strip which totally destroyed my arguments. It contains a picture of a medieval serf carrying sticks, which I assume was Hasan Piker's profession before doing Twitch. He's claiming that we should improve society, next to a Redditor who claims that the serf lives in a society, and therefore can't criticize that said society. The point of the meme is to mock the argument that critics of capitalism are hypocritical for living in a capitalist society. This has been met with multiple parodies. Here is one with Hasan telling the serf that he bought a castle. But this is clearly inaccurate. Hasan would never buy such a dull, drab castle. He fights against the capitalist system by buying a West Hollywood mansion instead. The mansion is part of his basic necessities budget.
I live on a basic necessity budget for the most part anyway. Okay.
A basic necessity budget? I don't even know if I say I live on a basic necessity budget because my rent is so high. And I know my expenses are 1/10. Didn't this guy just buy like a $150,000 car? Basic necessity budget. How often do you think he DoorDashes food? On his basic necessity budget. How much does this guy's clothes cost? What part of his lifestyle is a basic necessity budget? This guy flies in private planes to Burning Man.
Yes, a basic necessity budget.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
When confronted on his extravagant spending, namely his $3 to $3.5 million Marxist mansion, Hasan responded with this gem.
Products? Like commodities that I consume? Is that what you're saying? Socialism is when no Diet Dr. Pepper, no iPhone? Is that the argument? Is that what we're doing? I don't understand. Why do you fucking own things, dude? What the fuck? Socialism is when no treats and no products whatsoever, no commodities.
It is only a matter of time before Hasan Piker buys a platinum ruby-encrusted toilet which flushes his turds down with champagne and sparkling water, has a toilet seat coated in mink fur, comes with a surround sound entertainment system, and a slave butler who wipes his ass with the finest of silks. His critics will answer Hasan, "Hey, comrade, that doesn't sound like something a socialist would buy." Hasan would respond by saying, "What, you think that just because I'm a Marxist, it means I can't take shits? Socialism is when no toilet." His $250,000 Porsche is also a necessity. You can't race towards a class war from a measly Toyota Corolla. Toyotas and Hondas are for capitalist peasants. The fact that his sports car was parked on a handicap spot is a metaphor for Hasan Piker's entire existence. While the vast majority of feedback I got from my previous video was very positive, the strawman argument of socialism is when no house has continued to be a recurring argument made by Hasan Piker apologists. So, as a proud communist revolutionary myself, I want to provide the public service for free to Hasan supporters to let them know the pure nature of luxury items and the meaning and economics behind them, to the 12 of them who didn't already downvote the video and leave. What will I do without their insightful rebuttals to my arguments? I'm still trying to recover from that time Philip J. Fry came after me, calling my previous video lame, and having over 100 people thumb it up. Whoever wrote this comment, this is the proudest accomplishment of your life. Cherish it till the end of time. So, what makes an item a luxury item? To answer this question, I will have you guess the second most expensive spice in the world. FYI, the number one most expensive spice in the world is saffron. Take 3 guesses. What is the second most expensive spice? The answer is vanilla. Yes, vanilla, the most common, bland, boring flavor. So boring that in our common vernacular, we oftentimes call things that are bland and boring or default vanilla. Vanilla ice cream, vanilla World of Warcraft, vanilla. It is a flavor that everybody likes, but no one loves. I have never met someone who dislikes vanilla, but I've also never met anybody who thinks it's their favorite flavor. The guys who think vanilla is their favorite flavor look like this, and the guys who hate vanilla are probably weird sexual deviants that belong on an offender's registry. I have no sources to back up any of these points, just trust me, bro. Vanilla is native to Mesoamerica, but it would eventually be the island nation of Madagascar off the coast of Africa, which would become the world's most famous producer of this crop. The spice was quite expensive due to the difficulty of cultivation. Vanilla beans are very labor-intensive to cultivate in mass, and it takes around 4 years before each plant can produce a single sellable bean. That was until a Marxist government took control of the, government, and in turn of the vanilla plantations, in the name of aiding the people, just as our friend Mr. Piker would want. The government set up what was called scientific socialism, which included price controls and the nationalization of various industries, including vanilla production. The sharing of resources and other communist policies led to a reduction in poverty, and eventually led to stronger democratic norms. No, just kidding. By the end of the experiment, the country faced economic collapse, including its vanilla industry, capital flight, and an exodus of the skilled labor force. This came along severe water and power outages, and mass protests eventually led by young people, labor unions, and civil rights activists. These protesters even managed to burn down the capital city's city hall. These young adults did not wear Che-Guevara t-shirts, nor did they don Prada bags. Nor did they wear war correspondents' press vests to show off how they were so badass on their non-existent Instagram profiles. As a result of these protests, by the early 1990s, the communist experiment in Madagascar had been defeated by a coalition of workers' unions. Granted, there was not much attention paid to the remote island nation internationally. As our Gucci gorilla once told us,
The revolution will not be televised.
Meanwhile, the collapse of imported vanilla beans led to a massive increase in the prices of vanilla beans due to the lower supply, but stable demand. This led to a massive uptick in price. To deal with the lack of supply, but increased or at the very least stable demand, food scientists managed to produce synthetic vanillin from wood pulp. This vanillin lacked the aromatic compounds of real vanilla beans, but it had the same flavor in baked goods. As a result of this, the price of vanilla flavor became very cheap. Vanilla became extremely common, to the point that it was no longer a luxury item. Hasan Piker would not take a glamour photograph of himself eating a McDonald's McFlurry. So how did a product, which as far as its utility is concerned, go from being a luxury to being as boring as Hasan Piker's empty chair live streams? Luxury items are a form of status projection. If everybody has easy access to an item, it can't be high status. High status exhibits exclusivity. A luxury item can't be something that most of the general public has access to. If a bum on the street could trade his meth pipe for one of Hasan's Dolce & Gabbana bags, well, then that Dolce & Gabbana bag would no longer be a luxury item. Luxury items are usually of high quality, but their primary purpose is the projection of status above others. Take, for example, the low-tier luxury brand Ralph Lauren, also known as the maker of polo shirts with their famous logo displaying a man playing polo on his horse. Maybe this logo actually displays our voice of the working class, Hasan Piker, riding a horse on his working class family's multi-million-dollar ranch. Now, Ralph Lauren is certainly made up of high quality materials, but it isn't any more functional than the clothing you can buy at Walmart. The clothing at Walmart is pretty impressive given its ability to cover a customer with two asses. But wearing a polo shirt rather than a Walmart t-shirt is a symbol of your relative affluence, and the unlikelihood that you think KFC is fine dining. Another preppy brand is Lacoste. The quality of the product is definitely better than what you'd get at Walmart. It's definitely better than what a single mom would use to cover her fat folds, but the price tag can't simply be explained by quality alone. When you buy a $200 shirt from Lacoste, you are spending $50 on the shirt and $150 on this tiny logo of an alligator. This tiny little alligator is a symbol of being a prep, but not necessarily of elitist status. This is a cool looking reptile, but it might be too pleb for our Marxist revolutionary friend Hasan. Alligators are pretty lame compared to sharks, and for that we have the Italian luxury brand Paul & Shark. By paying a few $100s more, we can replace the lame alligator logo with a cool shark logo, and as a result you get to look down at all the plebs with their Lacoste shirts. Peasants can't afford to burn over $700 on a sweater, broke capitalist poors. But keep in mind that Ralph Lauren, Lacoste, and even Paul & Shark are pretty much just thrift store rags that a medieval serf would wear compared to the Cartier, Prada, and Gucci Hasan wears in the name of fighting corporations. This is what we call conspicuous consumption. Everybody engages in consumption as it's necessary to not only survive but also to thrive and enjoy life. The vast majority of us who are capable of doing so also engage in consumption through our disposable income, which is the income that is spent after all the essential spending is done. It's income we spend for our own pleasure. This can of pinto beans is part of a basic necessity budget, since it falls under the category of groceries. Hasan probably forgot grocery stores existed since DoorDash is his personal chef. If Hasan were to ever even simply touch a tin can of beans, his centimillionaire body would vaporize. The next level of consumption after basic budgeting is the consumption of disposable income. This is consumption done for our own pleasure. For example, this iconic toy shark from IKEA called a whatever the fuck this Swedish pronunciation is. This plush shark is purchased through one's disposable income. The toy has become so popular that its supply and demand has mimicked both that of a status symbol and of a basic necessity. While not being a luxury item in the conventional sense of the word, this sharky has been a form of social projection, as it's become a symbol of internet culture, gay rights, and ecological conservation. On the other extreme, this toy shark has oftentimes mimicked the market forces of an essential item. For example, when it was reported that this sharky was low in stock in East Asian IKEA markets, we saw mass panic buying. People went out of their way to buy this toy shark in countries like China and Taiwan, in the same way that people mass bought toilet paper at the beginning of the Great Coup. Beans, plush sharks, and ass wipes are the most essential items of life. On the opposite end of basic necessities is conspicuous consumption, which is buying expensive items on purpose for the sake of exhibiting your wealth and status. This is essentially the form of consumption in which Hasan Piker claims to be the voice of the working class. Consumption for the sake of implicitly showing how much more status and success he has over the working class people he claims to speak on behalf of.
Even if you think I personally am a class trader as a bourgeois, capital owner who is saying like, no, better things are possible for the working class. Why the fuck are you mad at me over it? You're literally broke. You are a member of the working class and you are defending the interests of the super wealthy. Dumbass. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. These guys will get mad at me for saying that a better future is possible for them. And it's wild that there's like no counter argument beyond, oh, this guy is a rich socialist. What a fucking hypocrite. It's like, okay, dude, well, you're a poor capitalist. You know what I mean? I'd rather be a fucking rich socialist than a broke boy defending capitalism.
I buy a lot of expensive things because I have a lot of money. You can't afford expensive things because you don't have a lot of money. Ha ha, you want these things but you cannot afford them. That means that you're not cool because you're just a poor person.
Well, you're a poor capitalist. You know what I mean? I'd rather be a fucking rich socialist than a broke boy.
Stupid poor people, stupid poor people. I have more money than you. Stupid poor people, stupid poor people. You can't even afford food.
My last video used the Cuban Revolution by Fidel Castro and Che-Guevara as framing devices. So it's worth noting that Fidel Castro, like Hasan, was a communist who loved luxury. While your typical Cuban neighborhood looks like a neckbeard nest, Castro owned beach homes, sports cars, alongside his private marina, filled with yachts and a harem of mistresses. He also got nearly 30 containers of ice cream shipped to him. Okay, that's pretty based. However, Fidel Castro did not engage in conspicuous consumption because he kept his fortune concealed. He was hiding his wealth. Had he not hid his wealth, he probably would have gotten his head on a pike. Hasan, on the other hand, does engage in conspicuous consumption as he walks around Cuba showing off his $1,300 glasses in front of hungry Cubans who never got a scoop of Fidel's personal ice cream stash. Funny enough, all of this actually shows a way in which markets operate fairly ethically, albeit very imperfectly, when it comes to basic necessities. After all, basic necessities are cheaper than luxury items. This brings us to the paradox of value, oftentimes referred to as the water-diamond paradox, in which useful, essential items like water are very cheap to access for nearly everybody but the poorest of the poor, while diamonds are a purchase people will only make in preparation for a wedding and are rather symbolic rather than functional. Pokimane didn't get herself a wedding ring because she needed to eat the diamond for basic subsistence. She bought the diamond to project how totally not insecure she is about being a rich woman with ovaries which are shriveling. If the economy worked the other way around, with diamonds being cheap and water being expensive, civilization would collapse. Which, given the existence of TikTok, is probably a good thing. Same thing goes for an essential item like a loaf of bread, which is cheap, versus Hasan's Cartier ring, which is over $3,000. The only utility that this stupid 3K plus ring made from white gold serves is to display how utterly full of shit Hasan Piker is as he reads a book by the founder of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Lenin. The same Vladimir Lenin who would probably put Hasan in front of a firing squad for spending so much money on something that could be used to buy more bread for the poor. Granted, this is under the assumption that a communist system is even capable of producing enough bread in the first place, which is debatable. Just look at these pictures of communist bread lines. By buying these luxury goods, Hasan and his Che-Guevara friends are in a way fighting against the core assumptions of capitalism, just not in the way that they think they are. In typical circumstances, the higher the price, the lower the demand, and vice versa. However, these luxury items are subject to what is called the Veblen effect, in which a higher price of an item increases the demand for the good, as it signifies the purchaser of the item has achieved some sort of exclusivity and prestige. Here is another twisted nail ring that looks similar to the one Hasan bought, but Hasan would never wear it because it only costs $11 fucking. Pleb fashion. I also can't get over the fact that it's shaped like a twisted nail. Hasan Piker has probably never used a hammer and nail in his entire life. Now keep in mind that not every rich person who owns luxury items is doing so for status projection. For example, Jay Leno has a very large car collection. However, he doesn't own a bunch of cars because he wants to show off to teenagers. He has a large car collection because he is genuinely very passionate about automobiles, and he shares his encyclopedic knowledge and experience with this subject with the public on his show Leno's Garage. JJ McCullough, a YouTuber who is far more relevant and infinitely more respectable than I am, has made a video a few years ago called Consumerism Isn't Evil. He makes the valid point that material goods do provide joy and meaning to people's lives, and that healthy consumerism need not be mutually exclusive with having non-material value systems, or concern over unethical business practices.
Religious movements that attempt to adopt a strict anti-materialist position tend to get a lot of favorable press in American culture because they are helpful as good examples to shame the rest of us. But in reality, I think they're just preaching yet another form of pious abstention from a natural instinct that winds up being every bit as oppressive and unsatisfying as the thing it is supposed to be offering liberation from. And indeed, in much the same way that spiritual admonitions to abstain from types of sex or food often wind up producing a heavy psychological burden of guilt and humiliation on those who fail to live up to the unnatural demand, so too do those calling for anti-consumerist abstinence often spiral into a kind of self-righteous misery as they attempt to practice what they preach. Even just anecdotally, here on YouTube, I often feel like the most stereotypically jolly YouTuber is one of these chubby, middle-aged guys who likes collecting things, while the most stereotypically miserable YouTuber is a stridently anti-capitalist video essay person who probably spends a lot of time trying to come up with anti-capitalist rationalizations for why he enjoys movies and video games produced by the market economy.
I stand any of you dumb fucks in this chat. Oh my God, I hate the left. I hate liberalism. I hate everything that's going on every single day of the week. I hate my life. I hate streaming. I hate socialism. I hate every single person who thinks that the peak of activism is just being the most annoying, holier than thou, the most ultimately woke leftist. You did it. You have unlocked the nihilism within me, okay? I am black-pilled. Nothing will ever get better. We are never going to make it out. We can't even have a normal, non-hostile goddamn conversation on any of these issues. Everybody just simply wants to chirp into the wind because they have no power and they recognize their utter powerlessness in the face of unjustifiable constructs that we fucking exist under. And the best possible fucking thing you can do is just be goddamn annoying, okay?
We all have possessions which we cherish. In my previous video, I mentioned my $8 million platinum crack pipe that I bought from Goodwill. I cherish that till the day I die. Nothing wrong with cherishing certain specific items. Unless they're labubus, then you should be sent to the gulag.
I think Karl Marx would have appreciated a labubu. I think he would have really liked it. I think he would have enjoyed what a labubu implies. I think he would have appreciated it in general. So I don't know if, I don't know why people are hating on that, you know? Workers made the labubu.
When Hasan Piker was interviewed by Ross Stewart, our favorite sapphire socialist, what would happen if an actual socialist government came into power and tried to redistribute his assets and Twitch treasure?
You live in LA, right?
Yeah.
So it goes into Beverly Hills or something, and it says today the city council has voted to expropriate your lavish, undeserved wealth and return your homes to the people. And that's backed up by police power, so it's violent, but it's not shooting people against the wall. But like, is that what you mean? That
this is so
people
far
in Beverly
out
Hills.
in the future.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, this is so far out in the future for even someone like myself that like I don't even see the necessity of arguing on how this would work, because I'm more invested in, especially in the short term, getting socialized medicine.
Oh, how convenient! He evaded answering the question. Hasan, comrade, buddy, comrade again. Ross was not asking you about your position on whether or not America should adopt a single-payer healthcare system. He was asking you whether or not you should redistribute your wealth to the poor. Yeah, all of a sudden, Hasan Piker is not particularly fond of redistributing his wealth to help out the lumberjacks and cleaning ladies who can't afford to cosplay as Mao at cocktail parties. In the words of democratic socialist author, of which you have all heard of, George Orwell, All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. In the book The Rebel Cell, Why the Counterculture Became Consumer Culture, the authors Joseph Heath and Andrew Potter claim that the political activist theater of rebellion is not a threat to capitalism or the establishment. If anything, capitalism can utilize anti-capitalist sentiment to sell more products and in turn produce more capital. Hence the aforementioned Che-Guevara t-shirt.
Joe and I sat down to write this book because we noticed something a bit weird about consumer culture. Everybody hates consumerism. Everyone's rebelling against mass society. Everybody we know is anti-consumerist. Everybody we know is a rebel. Everyone's going to movies like Michael Moore's movies. We're going to see The Corporation. They're seeing movies like Super Size Me, reading No Logo. Yet somehow, we still live in a consumer culture. So what's going on here? What are people exactly opposed to anyway? Well, it seems that what people don't like is conformity. They're opposed to the idea that we live in a society which is one big system of enforced conformity.
Yeah, so when Andrew and I sat down and looked at this, I mean, what we realized, the mistake people were making is to think that consumerism ultimately is about conformity. And I think, you know, if you think about your own consumption habits, that's just obviously false. I mean, maybe when you're in high school, you wanted to get the same pair of jeans as the cool kids so you could fit in. But frankly, most of us, when we go out and buy things, what we're looking for is something that establishes some kind of distinction, something that sets us apart from other people. We rummaged through our basements and through our closets to look at stuff that we bought over the years, you know, that we'd spent maybe a little bit too much money on. And personally, like everything that I've bought, really, that was kind of expensive, I bought it because I thought it was cool. And of course, cool is fundamentally, it's not a bit about conformity, it's about distinction, right? I mean, cool is about the difference between stuff that's cool and other stuff that is uncool. And it's totally crucial. Like for some people to be cool, lots of other people have to suck.
I'd rather be a fucking rich socialist than a broke boy defending capitalism.
Getting funny haircuts, wearing different color clothes. I mean, we were both into that at a certain stage. But at a certain point, you grow up and you kind of realize that that kind of rebellion against, you know, against taste or against gray flannel suits or ties or whatever, it doesn't change anything, right? It's not really a threat to the system. So in fact, I mean, you know, we think that the Beastie Boys basically called everybody's bluff a long time ago when they, you know, when they said that, you know, basically we're fighting for the right to party, and that's all it comes down to.
Contrary to what many pretentious video essayists argue, consumerism doesn't necessarily promote rigid conformity either, but rather the opposite. Unlike a planned economy where the variety of items is very limited, leading to enforced conformity, in capitalism the diversity of goods and services are so vast that each person can consume in their own unique way. Many of these goods depend on exclusivity for their value, and once something becomes too popular, it becomes lame and mainstream. Kind of like my last video. This leads to what Heath and Potter call the rebel consumer, someone who thinks that they're fighting against the evils of the capitalist system while engaging in mass consumption. If you're skeptical of the concept of the rebel consumer, just check out Hasan's cringe-inducing merchandise at the ideology shop. Capitalism is voluntary. Well, voluntary services are free. So why don't you just lower the price of this rag from $40 to $0 so that the homeless guy and the sweatshop worker characters can afford to wear it, and thereby this monopoly guy man doesn't make any money. Speaking of shirts, as I stated in my previous video, Hasan Piker thinks that he's Che Guevara, when in reality he's a Che Guevara t-shirt, Chanel Guevara. Hasan and ilk would never be able to purchase any of these non-essential items within a socialist or communist economy. Well, unless they were members of the Communist Party. Hasan's lifestyle is similar to that of a Soviet leader, preaching equality for all while living in riches. Even our bro, Leonid Brezhnev, was a far better communist than Hasan Piker will ever be. At least, Leonid was born into a working class family and had to work his way to the top. No gold-plated toilets, and no horses to bring him up there. However, I do want to take back part of what I argued in my previous video when I portrayed Hasan Piker as being a colossal hypocrite. While this is definitely true, there's also a way in which Hasan Piker is not a hypocrite at all. And in many ways, Hasan Piker is very communist, as he is doing what so many communists have done in the past: pretend to be the voice of the working class while taking dumps into golden toilets.